What's going on, everyone? This is Noah from Spanky the Sparky. Today we have a special guest, actually from my home local, Tad Millington, out of IBEW Local 683. Tad, how's it going?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How you doing tonight?
Good, I'm doing good as well. First and foremost, I want to take the time to say thank you for doing this. Like I like to say at the beginning of all my videos, the purpose of these videos is to get knowledge out there to the world, because I feel like there's a lot of misinformation about the trades, but as a tradesman or tradeswoman, our goal should be to bring, especially in today's climate, to bring people into the trades. But on the other side of that, I think it's just as important through interviews or videos, whatever the case may be, if maybe it shows someone that the trades isn't for them, which I think is as equally important.
Yeah.
With, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just agreeing with what you're saying.
Yeah. So, Tad, I know you're an IBEW Journeyman. Just give us a little bit about yourself.
I'm 33 years old. July will be 15 years in the trade.
Nice.
I joined the IBEW back in 2023. I ran into an old buddy of mine. I was an apprentice with him. He gave me an organizer's phone number. We talked. I liked what 683 had to offer. I joined shortly after that, got a nice pay raise, topped out. Then, I've been getting even more nice pay raises. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
it's been a
With
fun
that
3
being,
years.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. What is it?
It's been a fun 3 years so far.
That's awesome. Going with that, I know you mentioned organizer, someone that's not familiar with not only the IBEW, but I guess a trade union as a whole. An organizer is someone that works directly for that union hall that helps kind of initiate or get the process started to bring a new member into that union. I talked to a lot of people that are on the fence about joining, or they've tried to contact organizers for different locals. Did you have any issues, I guess, getting in contact with an organizer, or was it pretty smooth sailing for you personally?
Once I got the organizer's phone number, it was easy to get my application through. Funny story, what happened was my original online application was accidentally sent to the spam folder.
Oh, wow. That's not
So
good.
I reached out, explained who I was, and they said, "Hey, we never heard of you." And I gave my first and last name. They're like, "I think yours got sent through the spam folder. Please reapply." Reapplied, and next day I went in for an interview.
That's awesome.
So,
Going off of that, we spoke a little beforehand. You started non-union before joining the union, which I did as well. You have quite a bit more experience non-union before the union, that's a big difference between you and I. What is, in your opinion, the biggest difference from going from non-union to the union side of things?
definitely, it's in the non-union world. It's everyone's looking over their shoulder.
I would
Like,
agree with that.
I'm yeah, I'm here to get the project done, but I'm also in it for, myself, screw that, you're always doing that kind of thing. Whereas with the union, it's like, hey, we're all here, we're all brotherhood,
That's,
let's get this done, let's be safe, let's be smart.
yeah,
No pun intended, it's a rat race on the non-union side.
I would fully agree with that, and that's something that I've we've both worked both sides, and I find it funny because we're getting paid in most cases substantially more doing the same amount of work as someone. And this isn't knocking the non-union side anyway. At the end of the day, everyone needs to do what's best for them and their family, which I get.
Correct.
But I've never really understood the whole ego side of things. Well, I've done this amount of work, but I'm getting paid a lot less. Why not come do this amount of work and get paid a lot more, which is something I'll still never understand, but each into their own, I suppose.
Yeah.
And coming into the union, obviously, you weren't initially a journeyman. What is I guess how did your mindset change going from a non-journeyman to a journeyman?
Well, once I became a journeyman, like once I topped out, it's like, all right, Tag, here's some apprentices, you need to, they're going to work with you. You need to make sure you train them. And, it's okay. The more they can do, the less I have to do. And I don't mean that in the, like I'm being lazy, but it's like,
No,
it's like, okay, if I can lay them out so where they can, rough a wall in without asking me 100 questions, that allows me to go work on, pipe runs or, mounting panel tugs, And so, in a way, it's like I now take pride in training the apprentices because all of a sudden, hey, well, Tad taught me this. I said, well, Tad did a great job, which is what I want, other journeymen to say about the apprentices. I want the, the apprentices to like get a very clear look of, what I, explained to them.
That's very true. And in a way, it's kind of like having, I mean, some apprentices you get paired up with for a day or two. A lot of the time, at least from my experience, you get paired up with an apprentice and it's a few months, it could be a year plus.
Yeah.
And I kind of like to think of it as like it's my child. Like, what if they get hurt? It's because of me. Anything they do good is going to at least be part of me, and anything they do bad is completely on me, in my opinion.
Yes, I agree with that 100%.
And the other thing that, at least a large difference between the non-union and union side, at least in my opinion, is the retirement. If we're not training apprentices to do good work, the union's not going to get that work, and in return, it's not going to pay into our retirement.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're going to have a lot of angry people that have paid into retirement for 20, 30 years that no longer have it, in theory.
Yeah, we're only as strong as our weakest link, so.
Yeah. Fully agree with that. Being in Columbus, a lot of people, especially all throughout the U.S., know about Columbus now because of data center work. Have you worked in data centers? Have you worked in hospitals? And if you have, which would you prefer to work on?
At this point, it's all electric work to me, but with it being wintertime, I'd rather be indoors. But right now, I'm stuck outside in the data center. Although, like we discussed before recording, I was at the brand new OSU hospital. So
that's a fun project.
It was quite interesting. So, but yeah, that wrapped up. I got sent to a data center down south. I'm not quite sure if I'm allowed to say the name of it or not. So,
yeah, let's just for all purposes, let's just leave names of jobs and whatnot out. That way, there's
the data center down south is good for me.
Yeah.
So I'm at the data center down south. It's indoor, outdoor, but I'm really missing the hospital right now because that was all indoor.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. Right before I took my new role, I was at a data center that was all in the underground stage, so I was outside up through the early winter, so I'm glad now to be out of it, but yeah. Building off of that, obviously as a commercial electrician or residential electrician, I guess it doesn't matter, but you're always going to have an ever-evolving scope of work. On the commercial side, which is predominantly what we do, what's your favorite aspect of the job? If you had to pick one single thing to do for the next 2 years, for instance, because obviously over time you'll get bored, but for 2 years, someone came up to you and said, what would you like to do? What would that aspect be?
Honestly, right now, I'm working on the temp power aspect of the buildings. I'm pulling the cables, installing the spire boxes, hanging the lights, and in the buildings that are completed, I'm going through and tearing the temporary power out. And honestly, I'm really enjoying that right now. It's honestly an aspect of the job I haven't seen in a very long time.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's kind of I would go through phases. Like I'd really like to run conduit for a couple of months, and then you get bored of it, and then you want to go do I don't know, wall roughing, or maybe you want to do terminations, whatever the case may be. But yeah, it's ever evolving, and that's something I enjoy as a tradesperson. Is it's not. I mean, for an extended amount of time, you might be doing the same thing, but over time, it's always evolving. One day you could be running conduit, the next day you could be terminating, the next day you could be out in a trench. It's just kind of all over the place.
I mean, at data centers, there's crews that are building the wire racks, and there's a crew that's terminating the 600 feeders into the tap boxes.
Yep.
So
the switch gear, the whole shebang.
Yeah.
I guess, and this is something I actually talked with a gentleman the other day by the name of, what was his name? I'm going to leave his name out just for confidentiality reasons. But we were talking about non-union and union. I always say I'm very thankful I started non-union because I got a lot of hands-on experience very quickly. It wasn't always the safest, but it was a lot of hands-on experience very quickly. And once I joined the union, I mean, I still got hands-on experience. It was limited in my opinion. In your opinion, do you believe that we're slowly kind of not evolving? Do you feel like we're slowly trickling away from the electrical side of things and becoming more of installers because of all the prefabrication that's occurring? Or where do you sit on that?
There will always be, I understand why prefab is there. I've worked on data centers where, it was like cages of 4-inch PVC.
I agree.
And they would dig out the underground and set the cages on either end, and you'd have to stick build in the middle of it. With PVC, I don't see that being an issue, but
I agree.
With EMT, you're always going to have to learn how to bend that. You're not going to buy pre-made factory bends. You're not going to buy pre-made 3-point saddles, 4-point saddles. You're going to have to, take the conduit in hand and the bender in hand and bend it yourself.
And
what I'm seeing at the data centers is it's mainly junction boxes with stub 90s. But I don't see us becoming installers. There's always going to be that need for the finer touch, of the art of bending conduit. And then another aspect is the art of troubleshooting.
That is an art in itself. And in my opinion, that separates an actual electrician from just an installer. Because most people with with practice can install conduit, but when you go to flip on a lighting circuit and everything's hell in a handbasket, are you able to track down and diagnose what's actually causing the issue?
Yeah, before I organized in, I actually ran a service truck on the non-union side. I was given my honey-do list.
Yeah.
Here, this is what you got to do. Go gas up the van. And I'm very thankful for that experience because it forced me to, just okay. Well, it's there were times where I'd have to replace one wire. Something broke, someone accidentally drove a nail through a conduit that broke a wire.
Yep. That's very true.
Being in the trade, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Being in the trade 15 years, I've seen a lot of goofy stuff that's like, what were you thinking?
I fully agree. I mention that because our paths to becoming a journeyman were a little different. You organized in, you worked, you got your hours, and then you tested in. I went through the apprenticeship, and I'll always speak positive of the union, but I do wish going through the apprenticeship, especially early on, there was more of a hands-on aspect. Obviously, it's very intensive school-wise, but I wish there was more of a hands-on approach in the school itself. That's just a personal preference of mine, but I mean, everyone's going to have their own opinions on that. We'll get a lot of people that say, well, you'll learn that out on the job, but in today's world, in my opinion, especially with these data centers, it's so fast-paced, you might get stuck doing the same thing for 25% of your apprenticeship, and to me, that's a big disadvantage because you're not letting an apprentice or whoever evolve into an electrician.
Yeah.
So from my standpoint, anyways, I hope things do change. I'm sure they will change. It'll take time because of how rapid everything's happening. But that is something I personally hope is on some sort of ballot across all locals to change. And I'm sure it varies local to local, but that would be one gripe that I have. I believe in transparency. It might not be a popular opinion, but it's my opinion, so it is what it is.
I also hold the opinion that like every 6 months, apprentices need to be rotated. Like, hey, it's like if an apprentice is stuck doing underground at a data center, what's he learning in 4 years that's going to translate to, skills outside of that? Like,
I fully agree with that.
He needs to know how to pull big wire. He needs to know how to, hang a row of lights.
You need to know how to use the one-shot bender. One day you could be using the table bender. The next day you could be installing rigid. The next day you could be pulling 500 or 600s in the switch gear, terminating it.
Yeah.
And if you get, that was always my one of my pain points. Was I always wanted to be rotated as an apprentice. It wasn't that I had any ill feelings towards a contractor. It was simply that I wanted to learn more. And thankfully, towards the middle of my apprenticeship, I got paired up with some very good foremen, very good journeymen, and I got to do a lot of different things, which exposed me to a lot, but that is something I hope changes over time anyways. I think it would do a lot of good.
Yeah. When I was at the hospital, I got put on the renovation crew, and that was honestly that I was in heaven because I was doing a little bit of everything. A little bit of fire alarm, a little bit of conduit, wire pulling. I was running flex for door controls. It's like
doing it all.
It's like all right. It's forcing me to be well rounded.
And that's something that I speak or a lot of the people I talk with is the well-rounded aspect. A lot of things I see online from especially non-union people is the union side of labor is not well-rounded. I disagree in the sense that if you allow yourself to get pigeonholed, you're going to get pigeonholed. If you speak up and advocate for yourself, yes. I feel like 99.9% of the time you can get out and you'll get all the experience you want, but you have to advocate for yourself. Would you agree with that? Would you disagree?
Oh, I 100%. You got to be loud. You got to tell your foreman. You got to tell your general foreman, hey, I'm tired. I've been doing underground for 6 months. I want to do something else. Absolutely. It's definitely one of those things you got to be loud about. I've met an apprentice who did his entire apprenticeship at Project out in New Albany. Sorry, I almost slipped up there.
No, you're good.
Yeah, he did his entire apprenticeship out in New Albany. It's like if he was stuck doing one thing for 4 years. Actually, I think he was the last of the 5th-year apprentices. But if you were stuck doing the same thing for 5 years, what did you learn?
That's a very good point. And at the end of the day, that was something I had issues with that I keep referencing. I wanted to be rotated, and it finally took me speaking up. And like I said, it eventually led to me getting the rotation and the experience I wanted, and I'm very thankful for it. But I did have to. If you're not going to advocate for yourself, why would anyone else, is my stand on that.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know it's kind of intimidating, especially in the apprenticeship, because you feel like, oh, well, they're going to retaliate. Most of the people involved in all apprenticeships are good people. They might be stern, but I think at the end of the day,
Yeah.
they all want to see everyone succeed. So,
Yeah, and you know, if you're not, if you advocate for yourself, you know, your journeyman, he should also, you know, be like, hey, you know, no one wants to do something different. Hey, you
yep.
know, let's get him on something different. You know, obviously he's gotten this handled. So, but yeah, I mean,
Speaking of apprentices and rotation, obviously, especially with the younger generation, there's kind of the stereotype: oh, they're lazy, oh, they're always on their phone. They don't want to learn. They're not going to pay attention. They don't work hard. In your opinion, what separates a good apprentice from a bad apprentice?
their willingness to learn, you know, if I give instruction, they they ask questions. I say, you know, ask me questions. Do ask me 100 questions. That
Yep.
way you don't mess something up. You know, there's. I'd rather answer your questions of this is how we're going to do it. This is why we're going to do it. This is why you can't do it that way. Because, you know, if you break something, I mean, yeah, I'm going to be mad, but it's like if you didn't ask, you know, I'm going to
Yep.
be even more mad because then it's like, hey, why didn't you ask how to do this? You know, you
And
can't
I
be
don't.
afraid to ask questions. That's the only way you're going to learn.
And it being in the electrical space, I mean, we work with something that doesn't talk, doesn't speak, doesn't really make noise unless it sometimes trips or an explosion.
Yeah,
Not asking a question could be the difference between getting killed, killing someone else. So, I mean, I don't think everyone always says there's no question or no, there's no question that's a dumb question. Some people will argue that, but I'm a firm believer. And I still do it to this day. I'll ask as many questions as
yeah,
needed. I mean, I think it's more important to know something, at least to prevent an accident from happening. That
yeah,
way,
yeah.
everyone goes home safe.
Yeah, we need to be safe, you know, and asking questions keeps people safe.
That's
You
the
know,
biggest component to anything in life is being able to go back home and see your friends, family, or
yeah,
whoever it may
you
be.
know, and this is for the apprentices. A good journeyman won't say because I said so. They'll explain why they want you to do it a certain way.
I
Why,
agree, and I think. I'm sorry.
you know,
Continue.
and it's a give and take. You know, we're all grown adults. You know,
Yep.
just because I'm the journeyman and you're the apprentice, you know, like we said before, there's a sense of pride in me teaching you, but you need to like when I say, "Do you understand?" Don't just go, "Uh huh." No, tell me, "Do you understand?" Okay, repeat back to me what I said to you.
I
What are
agree.
the steps you're going to take? What are the tools you're going to use? You know, it's like because I need to go do other things. You know, my plate's this big, your plate is this big.
Yep. And I think that goes back to, at least in my opinion, to the troubleshooting aspect. You might know, like, oh, I told this apprentice I want a 10-foot section of conduit ran from here to here, and we're going to pull this gauge wire, these colors, or this gauge wire, these colors for that circuit. But why are you doing that? Why these different colors? Why is it brown, or, why is it brown, orange, yellow rather than black, red, blue, for instance? Why is circuit 1 labeled or a certain color and why circuit 5 labeled a different color? I think all that ties back into just being a well-rounded, at least
Yeah,
on the electrical side, a well-rounded electrician, as simple as that may sound.
yeah.
In your opinion, obviously the word brotherhood, sisterhood's thrown around a lot in the union. What makes a good brother or sister? Not specific to the IBEW, but just in general through the union trades.
You're checking in on each other. You know, um, back in April, I reached out to the Union Hall on our Facebook page. I was struggling with my mental health. I had a manic episode. I reached out. I was like, "Do we have resources?" And the amount of people who said something on my Facebook post, and the amount of people who stopped me on the job site to make sure I got those resources, I was able, like, that really showed me, like, wow, this is, brotherhood is not just in the name. People actually want to live that, and that really made me appreciate it that much more. Like, just how many people who I thought were just coworkers, like, asking me if I'm okay. And
Well,
at the time, I wasn't okay, but I'm doing a lot better now.
that's awesome.
So
And that I would agree with that. I'm glad you're doing better. That's
yeah,
awesome. I've saw people like with whether it's a family member that passes away, like
mm-hmm.
collections that occur, things like that. And I fully agree with everything you just said. You would be surprised the amount of people, whether they fully know you a little bit, or just have saw you around the job site, how much people in the union's willing to offer a helping hand, whether it's monetarily or just support in some manner. And that's something I know many members are very thankful for.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, in your opinion, not in your opinion, but you've slowly progressed throughout your career. You worked non-union for a while. You've worked union on the union side for a while. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years in the IBEW, or where would you like to see yourself?
Where would I like to see myself? Well, hopefully, I can find out what the winning lottery numbers are. Because working for a living, just going for the birds.
Yeah,
Realistically, I'll probably be at another data center. I mean, with as many as we got going on, there's the one down south, there's the one out in Springfield, there's the one up north, there's multiple out east.
yeah,
There's Columbus is a booming market. Like, when I organized in, I think they said we had 10 years worth of work on the books, and we're bidding even more out. So
yeah. That's very true. I mean, I'm not going to. I won't name drop, but I've talked to people in certain organizations and companies. Uh, And out in New Albany, I've been told anywhere from 5 to 8 years scheduled, and that was a couple of months ago. Obviously, all these companies are purchasing large plots of land. They might sit on them for a while, but almost everywhere I know in central Ohio, that land's being bought's almost instantly being built on in some manners.
yeah,
And I
uh,
think that. I'm sorry.
project I'm on, I think we have another 2 years left.
That's
So
realistically, most jobs end up between pain points, and especially with logistics projects that usually run a tiny bit behind, hopefully not too far behind, so it'll probably be a little longer than punch list and whatnot. um, but yeah, there's a ton of work in central Ohio right now, which we're very blessed to have. I know different locals throughout the U.S. aren't as fortunate at the moment, but that leads into the next question. As a journeyman, you're able to travel, so you might get laid off from a contractor. There might not be work in your jurisdiction, but you're able to travel. Is that something that you would ever be willing to do?
yeah, I mean, there's Facebook pages, and people do discuss it. Like, hey, what are the conditions like in this area? What are the conditions like in this area?
Yep.
You know, there's also the website Where To Bro that
That's a very
help
good website.
travelers find good working scale. What kind of work is there. So yeah, I do see myself traveling eventually. mm, Probably in the next couple years, maybe in warmer months. I mean, I do
Yeah.
want to. I do want to go out there and see more of the country, but I, you know, I might like an area and say, hey, I want to stay here for a few years. So
Yeah, I agree.
nothing wrong with hitting book two at that point.
And that's something that I mentioned going crazy. That's something that drives me crazy is the fact that a lot of non-union guys, one of their first things is always, well, how long are you laid off for every year? How many hours do you work every year? And in my opinion, if your area is dry with work, I mean, you always have the ability to travel. I feel like if you aren't working, it's a voluntary thing at this
Yeah.
point, at least in the U.S. I mean, it might not be desirable to travel 500 miles to whatever state, but there is work available. Whereas on the non-union side, if you get laid off or fired, you're then having to submit applications. You might know someone that can get you a job, but in theory, you're submitting applications and you might get a call back. It's not, well, here's my journeyman's ticket. I'm good to go, which I think
Yeah.
so. And that aspect's nice. The other really nice aspect of the union trades is our retirements, in my opinion. Obviously, that's going to vary local to local, trade to trade. Um, in your opinion, are you a proponent to our not our pension plan, just the pension plan as a whole?
But I mean, I love the way our pension is set up.
I agree,
You know,
and, and that's something.
all I gotta do is show up and work. And I get my 43 on the hips or
No, you're good.
my 43 on the check. And then the rest of my pay breaks down to like was it 12 something goes to health and wellness, 752 goes to my
The pension.
pension, 425 goes to my annuity.
And when we're talking about benefits, I don't think it's any ill will. I just think it's general knowledge of not knowing. You said 43 on the hip. That's $43. It's on your paycheck. That's obviously taxed like it would be any other place.
Yes.
It varies local to local. There is a working dues percentage that comes out of that. In our local, it's 5%. But outside of ordinary taxes and your working dues, all those other things you mentioned, the pension plan, the annuity,
All that's
health
covered by the
insurance,
contractor.
it's completely separate, which a lot of people can't seem to grasp. And I mean, I get it. It's kind of taboo. You don't really. Oh,
I'm so sorry.
no, you're good. It happens.
Oh,
Nope,
all
you're
right.
good. I was just saying it's kind of taboo, so it's a
Yeah,
it's a great thing to have, especially working in the trades where something could happen at any moment. Um,
yeah,
it's just nice knowing that you are paying into your retirements, especially as a tradesperson. I've talked to many, even personal friends that are still working non-union that have no retirement at all, which is
yeah,
mind-boggling to me. I've also worked with a few guys that have made the jump to the union after working 10 plus years, and they said the companies they worked for never offered any retirement. So here they are. They spent 10 years of their career, no retirement.
yeah. And
It's,
at best, the non-union contractors, they might match what you put in, but you still have to take money off of your check
yep.
in order to have a retirement.
And I had a video I put out. I don't remember when, a couple weeks ago, but it was basically how we're always bashed for having to pay to work through our union dues. And my argument with that is we we pay a very small percentage of money through working in quarterly dues, and in return we get thousands upon thousands of dollars in return.
Oh yeah,
Whereas you might work non-union, you might not pay those working dues or those quarterly dues, but in return you're paying for your own health insurance, you're paying for all your own retirement.
yeah,
Um, so it's a nice aspect to have. Something that I feel like a lot of union members take for granted, and something that a lot of union members before us fought very hard to get into place. But for me personally, I'm very thankful for those
yeah.
systems.
And when I worked at non-union, especially when I was like brand new to the trade, I didn't know how anything worked. I was 19 years old, barely out of high school, and I was, at the time I was told, "Hey, stay away from those union guys," and I'm like, and I was just too naive to go, "Why? Well, why? Why shouldn't I talk to them?" And now, granted, the only thing I really miss from my non-union days are the friends that I made along the way. So,
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
that's
if
a
I could
big.
bring more of those guys in, I would. But you know, I made the best decision for me. They have to make the best decisions for themselves. So
I agree with that. I'm not going to be a used car salesman. Whether you're talking to me in person or through my platform, I'll give you the information, and from there you do whatever you see fit with it.
yeah, I
At the
mean,
end of the day, do whatever makes sense for you and your family. Just know this is here, and it is
yeah,
what it is.
yeah.
I've taken up quite a bit of your time. I want to end with one last question. I ask this to everyone I've interviewed to this point. Say I'm an 18-year-old guy. I walk up to you. It doesn't have to be specific to the electrical trade, but the union trades as a whole. And I say, Tad, should I join non-union construction or union construction? What would be your selling point, and which way would you direct them?
I would tell the 18-year-old you definitely go talk to the union hall. It's like I'll explain. Hey, this is like you said. Hey, we do pay a small amount on the hour towards our working dues, but prevailing wage is based off of us.
Correct.
So if someone's trying to get you to do prevailing wage, well, I make prevailing wage every single day.
Yep, not just
So,
give or take here and there.
so that's what I would say. It's like, hey guys, that's what I would tell the young guy coming right out of high school. So
I think you nailed it on the head. Well, Tad, I appreciate you taking the time to do the interview. Like I
thank you
said,
for having me.
yeah, no, I'm glad you're the first. You're the first one from 683 I've interviewed.